Welcome to In Your Element, the podcast that unlocks practical wisdom in higher education, where leadership meets real talk. I'm Brendan Hinkle, Manager of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451.
And I'm Daniela Norden, Element 451's Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Join us every other Thursday for discussions with everyday heroes using Element 451 in enrollment, marketing, and student success. We'll unlock the practical tips to help you make waves on your campus.
In Your Element is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Welcome, everyone, to In Your Element, the podcast that's quickly becoming your favorite podcast. I am thrilled to have our guest on today, Kelly Schimpf. Kelly, say it for us. We're just going to have you say it.
Kelly Schimpf.
Thank you. Dean of Enrollment Management and Student Services at Salem Community College. Thank you, Kelly, and apologies in advance for butchering your last name.
That's quite okay. Thank you for having me today.
So I was talking to Brendan before we started recording, and I told him that I feel like today's topic is like so overdue. We have talked to partners about ways to optimize AI. We've talked about how they're collaborating across departments, but we haven't talked about partners and how to get started on Element 451. And Kelly, you have the secret sauce. Salem has the secret sauce when it comes to implementation, right?
I think we have the secret sauce when it comes to a lot of things.
That was the right answer.
Yeah, I can just speak personally. I used to be on the CS team, moved over to the solutions team, and all I heard when Salem came on was Salem is just a group of rock stars with their implementation. Like, it permeated the company. So I was like, all right. I was like, I'm hearing good things. So it was really cool to hear how well you all took it in.
And you won the Rising Star Award at Engage last year. So tell us about your approach to implementation. How did your team approach it? How has it been successful? Walk us through that process, and then maybe we'll talk about some tips and tricks that you have.
Sure. Yeah. So when we started our CRM search, one of the main things I wanted to make sure I did while leading that search was getting input from across campus, because we were leaving a really admissions-focused CRM where the campus vibe around it was admissions tool, nobody else's. So I really wanted to get that early buy-in from campus partners to say, everybody's going to be working in this new CRM at some point. So I really need input from all the different areas, because I'm an expert in my area, not everybody else is. So making sure I had, I think maybe we had about 10 folks from campus on our CRM demos and listening to their feedback. And some of them were brand new to CRMs, which brings a certain value because they hadn't worked in CRMs before. So having that new end user input was really important. And then I had folks who had worked on CRMs at different schools and had valuable feedback on what they saw for their departments worked well and what didn't work well. So that was really the first step. Looking for a new CRM, we were looking for that full student lifecycle. I've worked in admissions and enrollment for about 12 years, but I know it doesn't stop there, right? Once we get them here, we find the right students, we get them on our campus, we want to make sure they stay and that they're successful in whatever their goal is. And being a community college, an open enrollment institution, it was really important for me to find a CRM that fit. The CRMs are never labeled four-year university CRM, but you can kind of tell when the CRM is really geared towards that competitive admissions. And I've worked at a competitive admissions four-year institution and used CRMs that worked well, but I knew they didn't translate as well for the community college. It was always, we could make that work, when really I wanted something that was designed to be really flexible for all different types of students and schools. So that was really important. And making sure communications is my jam. Efficiencies, making sure that it was easy for the end user to do the important work that they do. There's always a shortage of people in higher ed to do the work. So whenever we can leverage technology, that's really important. So that's kind of what I was looking for in a CRM and kind of where I got started. We did look at 3 or 4 different potential solutions, and Element stood out from our initial demo. We left that demo saying, oh, we could do this and we could do this. And we had so many ideas already before we even decided to purchase it. But just also knowing that, the people who worked at Element were awesome. I just felt like these are our people. These are people we want to work with. So I knew we were in good hands when we decided to go with Element. The other thing that was really important was we are a small team. We're a small community college. We don't have a lot of I don't have a dedicated CRM position. So knowing that we really needed that guided implementation approach, there was another system we considered, but it was really like, okay, you purchased the box, here's the box, and here's some videos, and have fun implementing it. That was not going to work for us. We didn't have the team on the ground to get that to a place where we would have felt really good about purchasing that product. So that was kind of our approach in looking for a new CRM and how we ended up selecting Element.
I actually kind of want to dig in just as one of the answers that you gave, and you said immediately you started thinking about all these things. We could do this, we could do that, we could do that. Number one, what of those things have you done? And of the things you haven't done, what are the things that are coming up that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because, again, being a small team, and it was really me and my director of admissions who were driving this process, and I really wanted to own it. We needed IT support, of course, and institutional research and planning, but I wanted us to be the owners of the CRM because I've worked at institutions that that was not the case, and it made it difficult to really optimize how we used the CRM. Just having kind of being at a bigger institution and having some of those silos were really challenging. And I wanted to make sure we optimized. We were making a big purchase, a big investment for our college. So I wanted to make sure we were able to optimize the purchase. I will say one of the exciting things, but also challenging things is there's so many great features to Element. We wanted to do them all like out of the
Right.
box. We're like, oh, let's go this way and this way and this way. We learned very quickly in our guided implementation. All right, we got to chunk it out. We got to focus on what's going to be the biggest impact for us as a college and then kind of chunk it out to what's reasonable because we have jobs. I would love to spend all week in the CRM. Sometimes I have to say, yell at me when I'm in there too long to get me back to doing some other stuff.
Tether
But
you back to reality, have someone
yes,
pull you up, spot you. Yeah.
yes. And being a former director of admissions, I do try to, I tell my current director of admissions, let me know when I'm in your lane too much. Like it's just, my passion. I can't help it. So working in the CRM all day, all week, during those implementation weeks was not a reality. We were in our peak enrollment time. We had to get students here and enrolled and run events. So we started with the first thing we did, which seems very silly now in hindsight, but our previous CRM, we did not have an active RFI form, request for information form. We
Whoa.
were really only collecting applications and we didn't have that top of the funnel. So when I came here, I said, we got to have our top funnel
Huge.
piece
Yeah.
so that we were cultivating relationships, we were meeting students, but we weren't having that follow through and tracking without having the RFI. So that was the first thing that immediately the implementations team said, this is a low lift. We can get this off the ground in a week if you really want to. And that was really exciting because it was a good first project for us to play around with some of the tools that were in the RFI building format, but also translated to building an event and building the application. So we started there and got that off the ground in a couple weeks and live on our website and started seeing students flow into Element, which was really exciting. From there, we decided our annual open house. We have a big summer open house that was coming up. And I'll be honest, we still had our previous CRM live. And I said, got a lot going on. Why don't we just do the open house in the old CRM, even though we don't love it? And plan for new student orientation to be the first one. And my director of admissions said, I think we just do it. And I said, I love it. Let's do it. So we quickly built the event. We said, we're going to learn. We learned a lot from that first event. And we were able to then immediately start building the next event and series of events for information sessions. And that was really exciting to see the communications that went with it, the follow-up, but then again, the tracking, having those students in Element already and seeing those touch points and starting to kind of put all the pieces together. Because when you see the demo, it's all nice and glossy and put together. And, you all have spent a lot of time in constructing that to be an impressive platform to look at. But when you start from scratch, even in a guided implementation, it's where do I start? Where's that biggest
Mhm.
impact for me? So we did events next, and that was all within our 12-week guided implementation. And then we really started chipping away at our application. We knew that our previous CRM was going to end that contract at the end of that year. So in the summertime, we knew we wanted to roll out our next application. And that was a big lift. That was the biggest lift so far because, again, previous CRM, previous application didn't have as many features and bells and whistles. And it's easy to get lost in the bells and whistles sometimes.
Yep.
So we had to have some challenging decisions and conversations of, all right, are we going all in? Are we doing this? Are we making this process change right now? Are we sticking with our current process? And I think we kind of found a good balance of we want to do our work better, and we have the tool to do it. But we also didn't want to totally overhaul everything and cause our timeline to not work for what we need it to work. And also we needed to train the team and get everybody on board as well. So the application was a big lift, and it's one we are definitely already making notes of. We're going to change this field, or we're going to, now that we see how it works for us and our students, we can see where those tweaks are. But it's working great. Now we're just trying to perfect it. And next, we're going to be doing a high school student application for really our dual enrollment, dual credit programs. That was one of those decision points where, because of our timeline, we said, I think we keep everybody together for now, but knowing that we are going to build out a high school specific application or, other visiting student application in the long run. But we were able to build a general application that really worked for all of our different student populations with the different student types and showing or hiding different questions. And that worked out really well.
What I love about all of this is that you've basically followed the student journey. Like, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if you knew that, but like, you're generating the lead with the RFI form. You're inviting them to an event. You're nurturing that lead. You're pushing them to apply, like with the application. So your implementation really followed a student journey and how they would interact with Salem, which is very cool, and how we build our implementation. And it's so nice to hear that that has worked for you. My question to you is, so you've talked about a lot about your director of admissions. Who else was on your implementation team? We get that question all the time.
Yeah, we definitely had a larger team. Like I talked about, we probably had about 10 people, 10 to 12 in the demo. And that included like our academic counterparts, admissions, financial aid, student accounts, users that we are now starting to onboard them in their processes, but they weren't in that initial part of the implementation. It was really admissions focused. So day to day, it was me and my director of admissions. We had input from our admissions counselor. We had input from IT and input from institutional research and planning, especially when it came to, it was such a blessing to be able to build our own custom fields and put them in our SIS import file, but also making sure we are meeting IPED standards and having that input from our campus partners. But day to day was really just the two of us working through a lot of that with support from others, absolutely. But it worked out, I think, really well. We did get input from additional folks along the way, but it also allowed the two of us to come together and make decisions on what was going to work best for us and our students.
That's awesome. And it's so funny. Whenever we're talking prior to someone becoming a partner, and we tell them like, you don't have to hire some consulting company to come in, some third party to come in and implement it for you. It's an experience that is truly for the end user, that is you looking to use it. And there's this look of disbelief in their eyes sometimes. So I don't, have you implemented any other CRM other than Element? And what can you say to the experience comparing and contrasting the two of those?
Yeah, I have. I was at a large 4-year institution that was actually rolling admissions. And so I was part of the implementation team there. It was their first ever CRM. They had done a lot of in-house workarounds before they invested in a CRM. This was about 8 or 10 years ago. And they purchased one of the big ones, worked well with the SIS and everything. But they rented trailers to put on campus. And the implementation team and the implementation specialist from the CRM company would spend days and days and 10 days at a time, just working on the implementation. Like it was such a big lift. And it works, it ultimately, I think, works well for them, but it was not a reality on a small community college campus to even think about having people drop their current jobs and spend that much time on the CRM implementation. And we really had to rely a lot on our implementation specialist from the company, the consultant who would come to campus. We would have to wait for him to come back to make changes and kind of customize what we needed. We relied on him, and he was wonderful. But at the same time, this implementation, we were allowed to be those people with the support of Element, but to say, oh, yeah, we'll just go in here, we'll switch this out, let's just try it out. Let's see how this field works. Is this going to do what we need it to do? And if it didn't, let's find another solution. So definitely a different experience. We did have a CRM manager role that was brought on at that previous institution, which was wonderful. If I could hire a role tomorrow, that would be the role, because I know we can optimize the CRM so much more and serve our current students better, but also recruit and work with even more students, because technology can really allow you to scale like that. But I don't have that today. So I had to work with what we had. And really, that's when I was saying what we were looking for in a CRM. One of the main things was the CRM that fit us, our institution, our students, and our team here. The last thing I wanted was for me to get the commitment of the institution to purchase, to make a large purchase, and then it not do or be what we needed it to be. Had a lot on the line, and I needed it to be a success.
I think it's one of the things we take for granted, Brendan, that we really turn over the keys to your instance, your account, like right away. So Kelly, you and your team could roll up your sleeves and build a custom field or play around or add test users on day one. And I think that that's something we take for granted, but it sounds like that isn't something that's sort of universal with these CRMs. So our goal really is to empower those teams to get in there. We do have partners who are always like, I'm afraid to break something. Do you have any advice or tips for our partners who are just getting started on implementation, or where to play around?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, our application obviously it wasn't live, so that's where we did a lot of like trial and error. That's where your campus partners come into play, because you become kind of tunnel vision on this project that you're working on. And once we got it to a good place where we felt confident enough about it to share it with others, we sent the link out and said, test away. You apply, have your kids apply, have your aunt, uncle, grandmother, anybody apply. And that was when we were still in the test kind of phase. So we marked those records as test records. So we knew to eventually clean them out once we got past testing out the application. But it's really having that input from others, because again, you as, one of the sole people working on it, you don't see everything that others are going to see. And we had students tested, of course, too. Our student workers every day were like, can you put in another application? See how this question's working for you now. Because as we got that feedback, we made those, changes that made sense.
Yeah.
Testing applications is one of my favorite things. For those of you who have been following along, this is going to be the Taylor Swift reference of the week, but I always submit a Taylor Swift application as my test application. And
Do you put little Easter eggs throughout
yes.
the application?
Well, here's the thing, Brendan. On December 13th, I got all these text messages about happy birthday, Taylor, and I was so confused. I was looking at my phone and my email being like, what is happening? Who is Taylor? And it was because I put in her birthday as a test application. But test applications are one of my most favorite things to do because you get the full student experience. Like you log into that portal, you go step by step and see what that student is experiencing. And then you can pull up your screen and fix it or change it or move things around on the back end. And it's fun if you like being in CRMs the way Kelly and I apparently love to be in CRMs.
And the other thing, I mean, eventually you just have to move forward with it, right? And that's the hard part. It's like, all right, we're going to launch it. It's going to be live. So what we also did, because we knew as real students started applying and going through the workflows, that we would see some things that maybe we wanted to tweak or change. So the other thing we did is we cloned our application once it went live, and that was now our testing, so that we could, because I do love that element, as you're adding or changing things, you can kind of preview it. But then there's also, like, it's nice to be able to share that link with someone and it be your new test application to see, is that question really functioning, especially with some of the conditional logic? Is it really functioning how we want it to? Because we decided to build, again, because we did one general application for everybody, student type was critical for us. So are you a degree seeking student, a visiting student, enrichment, or a high school student? And a lot of conditional logic was built on the student type. So we really wanted to make sure that logic was working how we wanted it to, because if not, questions about visiting students that showed to high school students would be problematic, and vice versa. So we kind of, that was because we were so afraid once it was live to make changes. We cloned it so that we could kind of play around and test it out to make sure it was what we wanted, and then we would go to the live application and make those changes.
That's a pro tip. That is a
That is a
pro
huge
tip.
pro tip.
Clone your application, make that the test one. Pro tip of
Yeah.
the day.
Also, have a system that allows you to clone the application.
Exactly. Yes.
that's a big key there. One of the things that's popped out in my head here randomly, and this is just something I kind of thought of as we've been talking to you, is going through implementations of the past, having a guided implementation was so key for you. But even doing guided implementations, a big aspect of an implementation is buy-in from your team, and commitment from your team. And I know you mentioned there are two big drivers mainly, but to be as successful as you all have been, there has to be buy-in. How did you all create that buy-in and commitment from the rest of your team as you were going through implementation and using a new platform?
The critical piece in the beginning was getting other folks on the demo and making sure there was an understanding this was going to be a full life cycle CRM. And that's kind of the stuff we're getting into now. How do we bring the current student experience? We still have a lot of work to do there, but letting them know, hey, we have all of these disparate systems that don't talk to each other. And if you need to find something out about a student, you got to go to somebody else because you don't have access to those notes. Really selling them on the full student life cycle experience has been really exciting to see. And also for them to know eventually that other tool they're using, we're probably going to fold everything they're doing into Element. And it's going to be even better because they're going to be able to see everything from the initial point of contact all the way through, hopefully to graduation and alumni relations and everything. I also work on a really great campus where it's just part of our culture, being small, everywhere in higher ed, understaffed, right? It's just in order to get things done for our students, we work together every day. So I have really great team players on my campus. That's just built in our culture here. We always say community is our middle name. So we're constantly trying to serve our surrounding community in any way we can. And everybody really, I don't even want to say buys in because it's just who we are as an institution. Just kind of keeping people informed along the process as well, because I'll be honest, I thought we'd be much further than we are today. I'm really happy with where we are. But again, you have to kind of pick and choose as you go through the process. What is the priority and what's feasible to get done in the time that we have? So keeping people informed throughout who are not yet using it, because I don't want them to feel like, oh, we bought that, a year ago. It's about a year. We started last March, so a year ago. And I haven't even seen it, or I haven't been in it. And it's just, we are not there yet for their piece, but making sure they know these are the major milestones we've hit in this implementation. And here's what we're seeing. Here's the number of applications. Here's the number of student interactions, like being able to share some of that out to keep them engaged so that when we get to them, they are still really excited about exploring using Element as a system for solutions in their area.
I love that. We've talked a little bit about the past and a little bit about the future. I know when we talked to Kelly, you mentioned BoltBot. You're getting started on BoltBot. Tell us about your plans and, more importantly, maybe the name, because we have heard a lot of really wonderful names for BoltBot. Do you have a name for it yet? Tell us what you plan on using it for.
Maybe this is the official announcement of the name.
This
So
must be the
this
announcement.
is
No,
it. Yeah.
that's a great question. So I will say we have a current chatbot on our website that we've had it, I guess, about a year now. It served us well as our first chatbot. It's not an AI driven chatbot. It's really responsive based on the student clicking on what type of student they are, what type of question they have, and it follows kind of that sequence of questions. So it's been really a really good first chatbot, but I'm really excited about moving forward with BoltBot because it's just the difference between our current chatbot and that. It's just, I can't even compare the two. They're not the same thing. So we're really excited. I started building out the knowledge base and really trying to get that up and running by this summer. And it's not a big lift because it's, you're telling it what information to read, but making sure you do it in a curated way so that students are getting the information they need. Name-wise, so our current chatbot is Alex the Acorn because we're the Mighty Oaks and our mascot is this cute little acorn. I'm looking for one on my desk, and of course I don't have one right at the moment. And
You've been
Alex
throwing
is
them
the
at
name.
somebody. That's your thing to
Yeah.
throw at people when you get angry. You
Yes.
just grab the
Yes.
acorn and just
Yeah. So
okay,
our
got it.
acorn stress balls and post-it notes and everything. So I don't know if we'll elect to go with Alex as well, or if we'll think about something new for BoltBot.
Without a doubt, what we've seen is everyone that is implementing BoltBot references it as he, she, like it is a person.
A
It is
team
a
member.
A team
persona.
member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's
Hmm.
Mhm.
what we've seen totally and completely with everyone when we start talking about it. It's like they're talking about someone that's sitting across the office from them. So that's
Yeah, and
hilarious.
I'm really excited, using Copilot, like all the AI features that again, you never have enough people, enough time, enough energy some days to get through all the things. So having just AI featured products to help our staff like make it easier or prioritize who needs to be prioritized, because I always say 80% of the questions we get on the phone or in our chatbot, the information's out there. It's about getting the students to the right information, and most of them can serve themselves to some extent, and really being able to focus on that 20% that need the interaction. And we want to still make sure, like, our biggest thing with getting any form of technology is making sure it's still personalized, because that's who we are. Again, that's our mission. We know our students. We have 1,100 students. We often know not only them by name, we know their family members because they're from our community. So it's just, we don't want to get away from that, but we want to be able to serve our students and allow them to get served how they prefer. Because some of them would prefer to just go to the website and get the information in the middle of the night. And we want them to be able to do that. But then we want our doors open if they need to come in and see us or want to call or video with us. So just finding the tools to really make it so that we can serve students how they want to be served.
This is so important because actually, Artis, our CEO, talks about this as being an international student and being nervous to talk to a person, right? And BoltBot has multilingual capabilities, so it can answer parent questions, even whose maybe English is not the first language. It's available 24/7, and its job is really to respond conversationally and to provide that answer. And you're so right, Kelly. It's so important to meet students where they are for all of those reasons, because at the end of the day it makes Salem accessible, and that's really your goal, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget, especially during the pandemic when we were doing everything virtually. I was hosting a Saturday morning information session, 10 a.m. my time, and I was expecting mostly local students. We do get students throughout the country for some of our niche and our athletic programs, and we have a cohort of international students. But I had an international student join, and he stayed on afterwards to talk to me, and he was saying that it was either 3 or 4 a.m. his time, but he specifically, like, this felt like the only way he could get in touch with us was to get up in the middle of the night and join our information session. And I just think about having tools like BoltBot, where he probably would have been able to self-serve and get the information he needed and then send an email if he had a follow-up question. But he literally got up in the middle of the night so that he could join our information session. And that really stuck with me.
Wow. And actually something that we typically ask at the beginning of these, but I think it's actually flown really well to ask it at the end is, when are you in your element? That we ask that on
Yep.
obviously it's the In Your Element podcast. When are you in your element, doing what you do every single day?
Yeah, I've been thinking a little bit about it, knowing that you would probably ask it, and thinking about my career kind of in chunks, coming up on 12 years in higher ed next month, being in different roles. It's obviously been different, but in that first part of of my career, I would say like working with students individually or like those big recruitment events, that's what really gave me energy and kept me going. Not that I don't love that work, but as my career has evolved, that second part really was that admissions operations, CRM, efficiencies. Like I love that. And that still sticks with me today for sure. But being able to, it was interesting because I thought when I stepped into that role in admissions operations, I would really miss the one-on-one counseling and doing a lot of the big event work. But I realized doing the operational work was critically important because it allowed students, like you could have a bigger impact almost by setting up really efficient workflows so that the students had a positive experience, if that makes sense. So I loved that. I never expected to get that kind of perspective from that job, but then I came out of it, and that's really where my drive to get Salem a really great CRM came from, because I could see how impactful that work was. Not to downplay working one-on-one with a student, that's obviously important too, but those big workflows and just seeing the bigger picture of how a student goes through the process, the enrollment process, and being able to improve that really has such a big impact. But in this current part, kind of third part, I guess you could call it, of my career, I really wanted to highlight working with an amazing team of people. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of great teams, but my current team of just really talented higher ed professionals who come with different experiences to the table and different, I never say I'm the smartest one on our team. Like everybody brings different pieces to our team puzzle, as corny as that sounds, and it just fits so well together. We all have the same goal. We all do things differently, but that makes us really, really an effective team. So shout out to my team if they're trying to listen to this, I'm sure, in the future, because they keep asking me about it. But it's a blessing to have such a great team surrounding you, because this work is really important, but also really, it's a lot. It can be a lot some days, and you need that team around you to bring you like back. I come racing back the next day, ready to go, even after a day where I'm like, oh, I just need a break. We love what we do. We're really passionate about it. We're passionate about helping our students. And finding my way, I started, I'll keep it short, but I started at Salem in higher ed, left to go on to four-year institutions and worked at large 4 years for a little while, and then found my way back. And I know like this is my home, working with this type of student, this type of institution. I really love our mission and how we're here to serve whoever wants to be served by us. So having like-minded individuals on my team is really empowers me every day to keep going and doing the work that we're doing.
This has been amazing. Actually, Brendan, wrapping it up with that in your element was a lovely, lovely flow. So
Nice little bow on top.
thank you so much for joining us, Kelly. Will we see you at Engage this year?
I will not be there, but my director of admissions, Amy, will be there. So she's very excited for the summit, and she said she's just going to be a sponge and soak it all up. So it's going to really, I think, going to help us get to that next level in our implementation, our year 2 phase, if you will. So we're excited to have her go and bring that information back.
She's going to bring back some really exciting things. There's going to be some exciting announcements. You're also going to be a little jealous because you're going to see all the fun that we're having, just to be honest. But
I know. That's what I told her. I said,
Oh, that's
I will
awesome.
find money. You're going. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
In Your Element is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too.
Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and enrollment professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Artis Kadu, Maya Demishkovich, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.